Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Speed English. Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that you need to live in America, England, Canada, or Australia to speak English fluently? Many English learners think so. They believe that if they don't move abroad, they will never become confident English speakers. They think fluency is only possible for people who live in English-speaking countries. But what if I told you that's not true? What if I told you that thousands of people have improved their English speaking skills without ever leaving their home country? And today, I want to share exactly how I improved my English speaking without living abroad. If you're learning English and feel stuck, this video could completely change the way you think about language learning. So let's get started. When I first started learning English, I had the same problem that many learners have. I knew grammar, I knew vocabulary, I could understand simple English videos. But when it came time to speak, my mind went blank. I would spend several seconds translating every sentence from my native language into English. By the time I found the words, the conversation had already moved on. It was frustrating. I thought the problem was that I wasn't living in an English-speaking country. I thought maybe if I lived abroad, I would automatically become fluent. But then I realized something important. Fluency doesn't come from where you live. Fluency comes from how much English you use every day. There are people living in English-speaking countries who still struggle because they rarely practice. And there are people living thousands of miles away who speak excellent English because they use it consistently. That realization changed everything for me. The first thing I did was stop waiting for the perfect environment. Many learners say things like, "I'll start speaking when I find a partner," or "I'll improve when I move abroad." But waiting is dangerous. If you wait for the perfect situation, you may never start. Instead, I decided to create my own English environment. Every morning, I started listening to English for at least 15 minutes. Not because I understood everything, but because I wanted my brain to get used to the sound of English. I listened to podcasts, YouTube videos, interviews, and short stories. At first, it felt difficult, but after a few weeks, English started sounding more natural. The second thing I did was start thinking in English. This habit had a huge impact on my speaking ability. Most learners spend the entire day thinking in their native language and then suddenly expect to speak English smoothly. That's almost impossible. So I began practicing simple thoughts in English. For example, instead of thinking I'm hungry in my own language, I would think it directly in English. Instead of thinking I need to go to work, I would say it in my mind using English. Throughout the day, I described what I was doing. I'm making coffee, I'm walking to the store, I'm watching a video. These small habits trained my brain to use English automatically, and that's exactly what speaking fluently requires. The third thing I did was talk to myself. Now, this might sound strange, but self-talk is one of the most powerful techniques for improving speaking. Remember this, your mouth needs practice just as much as your brain. You can know thousands of English words, but if you never speak them aloud, your speaking skills won't improve. Every day I spend 10 to 15 minutes speaking to myself in English. Sometimes I described my day, sometimes I talked about my goals, sometimes I explained a movie I had watched. The topic didn't matter, what mattered was speaking. At first, I made lots of mistakes, but nobody was there to judge me, and that's what made the practice so effective. The fourth thing I did was stop being afraid of mistakes. This was probably the biggest mindset shift. Many learners stay silent because they want perfect English. But perfection is the enemy of progress. Think about children learning their first language. They make mistakes all the time, yet they keep speaking. That's why they improve. If you wait until your English is perfect before speaking, you'll never speak. Instead, I started focusing on communication. I wasn't trying to sound perfect. I was trying to express my ideas. And the more I spoke, the better my English became. The fifth thing I did was use shadowing. Shadowing is simple but incredibly effective. You listen to a native speaker and immediately repeat what they say. You copy their pronunciation, rhythm, and intonation. At first, I used short videos. I would play one sentence, pause it, and repeat. Then I would do it again and again. This helped me sound more natural and improved my confidence. The goal wasn't to memorize. The goal was to train my mouth and ears to work together. The sixth thing I did was surround myself with English. I changed my phone language to English. I followed English content creators. I watched English videos. I read English articles. I listened to English music. Little by little, English became part of my daily life. And when something becomes part of your daily life, improvement becomes automatic. Many learners study English for 1 hour and then spend the remaining 23 hours completely disconnected from the language. I wanted English to be everywhere, and that made a huge difference. The seventh thing I did was focus on speaking, not just studying. This is where many learners get stuck. They spend years reading grammar books, they memorize hundreds of vocabulary lists, but they rarely speak. Imagine reading books about swimming for 5 years. Would that make you a good swimmer? Of course not. At some point, you need to get into the water. Speaking English works the same way. Knowledge is important, but practice is essential. The more you speak, the more confident you become. The eighth thing I did was record myself speaking. Honestly, I didn't like hearing my own voice. Most people don't. But recording yourself is one of the fastest ways to improve. When I listened to my recordings, I noticed pronunciation mistakes, grammar mistakes, and areas where I sounded unnatural. Then I worked on those specific problems. Week after week, I could hear my progress, and that motivated me to keep going. The ninth thing I did was stay consistent. This may sound boring, but consistency beats intensity every single time. You don't need to study English for 5 hours a day. You need to practice regularly. Even 20 or 30 minutes every day can produce amazing results over time. Most people quit because they expect instant results, but language learning is a long journey. Small improvements every day eventually become huge improvements. And finally, the most important lesson I learned was this: you do not need to live abroad to become a confident English speaker. What you need is daily exposure, daily practice, daily speaking, and daily consistency. The internet has made English available everywhere. You can listen to native speakers, watch videos, join online communities, practice speaking, and improve your English from almost anywhere in the world. So don't wait for a plane ticket. Don't wait for a perfect opportunity. Don't wait until your English is perfect. Start today, speak today, practice today, and trust the process, because every fluent English speaker was once a beginner, and every sentence you speak today brings you one step closer to fluency. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Speed English for more practical tips to improve your English speaking skills. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Keep practicing, keep improving, and keep speaking English every day. See you next time.